What's up, squad? So I know I'm late to the party, but it's your man Unspoken Reviews back again with another video, and we're going to be touching up on Daredevil Born Again, Season 2, Episode 4, Gloves Off. All right, guys. So first and foremost, I want to say this was a fantastic episode. I would not say I found it as great and amazing as some people have said it was. I will definitely say the ending of the episode was something I didn't foresee, but as we got kind of closer to the very end, it started to make sense that it's something that would happen. I kind of guessed that it might, and it did. So the one thing I want to say about this episode is that I'm glad it is a very Bullseye-centric episode. It's something that needed to happen. For the past couple episodes, Bullseye Poindexter has been this kind of mad dog unleashed in the background, doing all these actions, killing people, making all these moves, but we never got a chance to actually be on screen with him, watching him go through a day, seeing how he does his thing, and kind of getting the outcome of the actions that took place in season one. And I'm glad this episode decided to pick up on that. We also get some answers as to what may happen in the future. One character, unfortunately, may or may not die. I'm going to tell you why there's a may or may not there. But outside of that, I really did enjoy this episode. So, and we also got one little crazy Easter egg that does pop up in the episode that people have been talking crazy about. And you know what? I think that is pretty funny that the showrunner is kind of playing back into it with the fans. And we'll talk about that when the time comes. All right. So we do start off this episode with Poindexter, aka Bullseye, and we see his morning routine. And this is something that I really liked in this episode, which I kind of hope and wish they do more of in superhero properties. We do see it sometimes in some movies here and there and some shows. We do see that Dex has a morning routine. He has an apartment under the name of Tony, which is not his name, but that's what his neighbors think his name is. And we see the morning routine of him making breakfast. And not only that, we get to see him kind of cracking his wrists, popping them, flexing his muscles and stuff like that, working the tendons. It's such a small, minor thing, but I like seeing it because it just lets you know he doesn't just go outside and is able to throw things around, right? We kind of see he has to kind of have a routine to kind of stretch out those muscles, stretch out those tendons, get himself in a position where his wrists and fingers are nice and nimble enough to be able to do what he does. And it's such a small thing, but I loved it in this episode to show that superheroes kind of have to build up as well as supervillains as well. We see it with Matt in Fogwell's gym in season one in the Netflix series. We see it in Captain America Winter Soldier when he's running alongside Sam Wilson and past him. It's just little things like that that just make these characters more human. And I like that. I think that's pretty awesome. Of course, he does go to a diner and orders a banana milkshake, which is kind of a callback to season 3 of Daredevil and Netflix, where we see the banana flavored protein powder that he has on the kitchen countertop. Just let you know, the man really does like the banana flavor. I'm pretty sure he's not alone out there. Even I'm a big fan of banana flavor. He does have a reason for being here in this diner. And I think I did hear an Easter egg that this is kind of a diner that Peter Parker does visit. It's called the Bel Air Diner, which I think is pretty awesome. It's in Queens, so it would make sense that Spider-Man would fly by there sometimes. But he does end up contacting the task force hotline and lies and says that the Punisher is in the diner and that he has a gun. Of course, the task force wastes no time. They're breaking down the doors. You know, they're pointing their guns at everybody, scaring the living bejesus out of every person who's just sitting there trying to eat. And we see Bullseye picks up a toothpick and a straw. And as he's sitting there, one of the task force agents catches him without his hands up and says, "Hey, milkshake, put your hands up." And I thought it was so funny. Maybe I'm alone in this. It would have been a real funny moment, especially for this character, if he would have turned at him and was like, "Milkshake, but I bring all the boys to the yard." I'm alone in that. But I would have found that as a very funny scene if Bullseye would have said that at that moment. However, when he does show his face to the task force agent, he immediately recognizes who he is. And Bullseye just goes ham on all the task force agents. He's taking them all out. He's throwing everything from forks, knives, food timers, heating timers. He's shooting toothpicks out of a straw. He's throwing lobster claws at people's faces. I mean, this dude is going hard. And I thought it was such a badass scene to give this character. There are a lot of people saying that it's on par with the hallway fight scene from season 1 of Daredevil. I don't know. I wouldn't say about that. I would say that it is a great scene, but I'm glad that it's just kind of its own thing, right? It kind of reminds me of season 3 of the Netflix Daredevil, where you kind of have the screen zoomed in on Matt, but you kind of see Bullseye in the background just throwing things that's just bouncing off and hitting him. And it's something that Matt can't foresee happening. And that's what it really reminds me of, but it just kind of goes in a little bit more. And I like seeing his abilities on full display like that. All right. I think it was so awesome. I thought it was pretty awesome as well, is that he kind of considers himself one of the good guys, right? One of the people in the diner has a dog and he's afraid that he's going to die. And I like how Bullseye is like, having dogs in here is unsanitary, right? And he's just like, the man can't even have an answer. He's like, please just don't kill me. And he's just like, no, I'm one of the good guys. And I find it interesting that Dex thinks that he is doing the right thing. And this is one of those instances where the right thing is kind of a shade of gray, because when we see the task force agents as audience members, we think they're complete douchebags and we don't like them. And so when he goes out here taking them all out, we kind of cheer for him. But we don't forget the fact that Dex is a murderer and that he killed Foggy. And that's something that the characters don't forget as well. I like how he does the small bullseye on the door frame using the ketchup on the glass doors. I thought that was pretty cool as well, just showing that he'd been there. Now, we do cut to Matt and Karen and the rest of the free people from the, cages that they freed them from in the previous episode. I was kind of sad to see that we had to say goodbye to Jack, who decided to tap out of the situation, realizing that there's really no fight that he has here, and that, being locked up in that cage for 6 months, as sad as I am to see his character go, I was glad to see that Jack got more of a role somewhere else in the MCU, not just in Hawkeye. I'm glad that he was able to come here in this show and kind of shine. I like that there are those kind of minor characters that you can move throughout the MCU and they can have at least some effect on events, because as he does leave, though, he does give Karen his account number so that way if they need any finances, don't forget the man is rich. He's one of the few richest people in the MCU. That they can take whatever finances they need to do whatever they need to help out. And I really like that. I hope that we see more of the swordsman. I really love the team up in the previous episode. And I just hope to see Dude come back again in some form or fashion. I also like the scene where Ava really wants to get in and help Karen and Matt a lot more with their missions. And that includes getting the SIM card to BB, which Karen is unsure of and feels like it's too dangerous. But Ava really wants in. And I love the little exchange between her and Daredevil when he says, are you sure you're ready for this responsibility? When he touches the tiger amulet. And he says, are you sure you're ready for this? And she goes, were you? And I love that kind of back and forth play, kind of like this whole mentor apprentice kind of thing, where he's trying to make sure she knows that there are threats that come with this job. But she's also reminding him that nobody's ever really ready. But when you feel the call, you have to answer it. And I like that. I have a feeling that I'm going to like this character going forward. I hope they continue to do more with Ava Ayala. She definitely deserves to carry on that mantle of White Tiger. It makes me wonder if she's going to get a suit by the end of the season finale. That would be pretty badass. I don't know. I'm pretty sure this actress has some growing to do. I kind of put her in the ballpark around maybe 16, 17. I'm not exactly sure. Someone let me know. But she's pretty young, which means she's got a lot longer she can go in this universe. I think that'd be pretty cool to see where she goes from here. Well, we do get some good news as well, but they do manage to find the first mate from the Northern Star, who does come forward. And he does manage to give a confession of everything after the group is able to convince Kirsten to come forward and help interview him. This is something that she's hesitant about, as, of course, Powell's dumbass comes in there destroying her office just because they can't find Jack, and they're trying to blame her for him missing, which doesn't make any sense, as she would not have any idea where he's at or anything about him. And I find it very interesting that they can just come in there and destroy a law office like that and just walk away. And it's just one of those things that really makes you hate the task force. It just really makes you get annoyed by these characters, how they kind of go around causing drama for everybody. And I'm hoping that Pal and North get theirs before this season's over. They really do deserve to have their asses whooped, in my personal opinion. Okay, I hope it happens. They're getting on my nerves. And I like how the show kind of builds up this annoyance of the task force, right? That makes you really want to see these guys get their asses handed to them. Okay. So they do manage to get him to confess to everything to help them close the case on Fisk and maybe get the feds and the marshals involved. Fisk is getting ready for his boxing match against this guy in the ring. And, as this is getting ready to pop off, Vanessa decides to take a shot at the governor to get her to kind of back off Fisk. And it's kind of messed up how she does kind of persuade her. And the one thing I got to say about Vanessa Fisk that I cannot stand, but it's still kind of sexy, is that smile. That smile is so devious, but so sexy at the same time. It's like, what the hell? Like, it's like you want to hate her, but at the same time, you're just like, damn, she bad as fuck. In between this moment, she does kind of gain favor with the governor as Vanessa tells her that she can pretty much harness Wilson's anger. And this is kind of like a lead into how the episode ends, right? Matt and Karen are worried about Bullseye as they know he's out there causing drama, causing problems. And they realize they got to track him down because if he manages to kill either one, Wilson or Vanessa, he's going to end up becoming a martyr. And they don't want that to happen, especially Matt. That's more dangerous than having him alive because having him dead, people will just believe in his ideals even more. I like how that's always kind of a point of confliction for Matt, especially considering the fact that Vanessa is responsible for Foggy's death. And they end up getting their hands on some task force armor. And Matt does manage to go to the diner and he does end up finding a coin that is close to the church that he once grew up in as an orphan. And we also know that his mom actually worked in that same orphanage as well. And when he goes there, he does meet up with the priest who doesn't really want to give out any information about Bullseye because he feels like it's not their place to judge. But he's still responsible for people's death. And I like that the priest kind of gets over himself and explains how he was able to hear the church bells. And Matt puts everything together immediately. And I like how this scene just kind of calls back to Matt being a kid that we've seen him in season 1 of the Netflix series. I like how they're making sure everything is connected and making sure fans feel that, because I didn't really feel that in season 1. They're really trying to make sure people can relate the events from the Netflix series to this new series. And I think that is perfect. I think that is really great. So that way people don't feel confused about the canon of everything, right? So he does end up going to Bullseye's apartment. This fight scene was so badass. I like that Poindexter immediately knows something's off. He drops the disc out of the CD player and immediately throws it. Matt counters it, and it's just a really badass fight scene between the two. I like that Matt is trying to tap into what Bullseye does and is able to counter him by also doing the same thing he does. I think that's pretty cool. Like you can definitely tell that Matt learned a lot of how to anticipate Bullseye and how to fight him properly, keeping that distance closed and trying to use the items that he throws back against him. However, Bullseye does get the upper hand, and we see that Bullseye really only wants to get revenge on Fisk for what she did to him. He knows that he killed Foggy, and I like how Matt struggles with not wanting to hear his name. He's like, don't you say his name. But for Bullseye, this upsets him because he was essentially used, right? His abilities, his talents was used in a manner against somebody without his knowledge of what it was being used for. And as soon as that was done, he was just discarded like trash. And this pisses him off entirely. And I understand that. And he feels like that him killing the Fisks is something that needs to happen to fix everything. But of course, we know that Daredevil does not want Fisk to become a martyr, and he has to stop him. So they do decide to move the first mate out with the marshals. And as soon as Buck got that text message, I knew dude was not going to make it out of the city. I knew it as soon as Buck got that message and Fisk sent him away. I knew what was going to happen. I knew. Of course, Buck does manage to find the guy, and he does kill him. And I was just so pissed off. And that was just something that used to happen in the Netflix series all the time. Every time you thought that the heroes were going to get a one-up, the villains just somehow, nip in the bud before they can get away with it, or stops them before they can, execute their plan. It's so messed up. But it also means that somewhere in the rebellion that there is a leak. Somewhere in that office where they have Matt, Karen, and all the people they freed, someone is leaking information. Who, where, why, we don't know, but somebody's leaking information. So, of course, the guy does die. They don't know this yet. So they do start the boxing match. And It's a pretty interesting match. Let me tell you something, man. I don't know who this boxer is, but let me tell you something. The moment I would have stood toe to toe with Fisk in that ring, and I see this big ass mountain of a human being looking like Mount Kilimanjaro in front of me, I'm out. I'm tapping out, bro. There's no, like the moment as soon as I say touch gloves and his gloves came down and pounded on my hands, I would have been like, nah, bro, we out. Like, hey, I'm voting Mayor Fisk from now on. I ain't fighting this dude. Like, forget that. However, dude does go through with the boxing match, and man, Fisk is just wrecking his shit. I mean, bro, I was wondering how dude was even standing. You would have to really believe that this dude has some training in boxing because he's taking hits that would have put me down the first time. I mean, blood spewing everywhere during this fight. I mean, he's just getting his ass whooped. Okay, we see BB and Daniel and Sheila all in the audience, just like shocked. Daniel's just cheering this on. Before we go further, I want to say Daniel really kind of scared me a little in this episode. I'm wondering what long game Daniel is playing. It makes me wonder if Daniel should be the one that everyone's worried about. The reason I say this is because we get a scene with Daniel where BB has the young boy bring him the the little SIM card that Karen gives to Ava. Ava does go to the one boy from the store from the previous episode and has him bring BB the card. When he puts the card in her pocket, there's a moment where Daniel is just staring at her. And I'm wondering to myself at this moment, what is Daniel thinking? Is he like, does he know what BB's up to? Is he kind of guessing, but he's not sure? Does he know she's up to something, but he can't really pin his finger on it? Or is he allowing her to get away with the things she's getting away with? Because there's a moment where he just looks like he knows, but he's like, do I want to say something or do I want to play this out and see what happens? Something tells me Daniel knows and is playing a lot more of the long game than anyone's giving him credit for. Now, in the previous episodes, I did say, hey, this dude's going to end up biting the bullet when everything comes crashing down. But I'm starting to wonder, does he have a long game and is he letting BB get away with these things? A, because he actually likes her, and B, because maybe he's trying to win something. He's already deputy mayor. Fisk goes down. He takes that spot. I'm just saying, but this dude scared me. So the fight is going down, and of course, it looks like Fisk is, winning the fight. However, Vanessa, much against Wilson's wishes, and of course, we see he gets distracted. And this kind of is a callback to what the governor asked about if she could control Wilson's impulses. And you see that Vanessa is a very strong weak spot for Fisk because he gets distracted by seeing her, and that boxer gets the upper hand and manages to land a strike on Fisk. Of course, that pisses him off, which was probably the last thing he needed to do. And he beats this dude so bad that he is down on the floor having a seizure. They cart his body out. Of course, he wins and wins the belt. And, Vanessa gets in the ring and is just begging Fisk to kiss her. Like, I mean, he's like, you shouldn't be here. Like, he's like really telling her that she needs to leave. And she's like ignoring the hell out of him. And of course, here comes Bullseye in the full intro, just taking people out, throwing things here and there. He even knows the task force agents that are dressed as civilians. They try to come in civilian dress, and he spots them right away and takes them all out. Of course, he's trying to have Vanessa taken out to safety. However, she's not listening and decides to try to pull her own pistol to try to take him out. Of course, Fisk tries to do it first. He ends up stopping him. Then Vanessa tries to pull her strap, take him out. And of course, before he gets a chance to do that, he throws an item. However, I think, and it was pretty funny because he grabs I guess there was like this ornament for Fisk, and Fisk taking over the city. And he goes to throw it, and Vanessa gets a shot on him. However, as it's going through the air, Fisk takes the belt and he cracks the ornament with the belt to protect himself. Matt does show up and manages to try to get Bullseye out of there in order to stop him. And this is what I was telling you guys about that Easter egg. If you guys pay attention to the quick shot, you'll see it's already all over Twitter, X, all that stuff. but there is a small shot where they fall out the window and it kind of looks like the Watcher from the What If series. And I thought that was pretty interesting and pretty funny because it definitely did look like it. I went back and watched the episode and I was like, wow, it really does kind of look like the Watcher's watching events. That's crazy, which we do know that he does. Ever present, but never interfering. That's what he does. Matt does give Chase the bullseye, who is injured. And as we cut back to the ring, we see a piece of that ornament got lodged in Vanessa's temple. Of course, she's bleeding out all over the floor. But I'm going to tell you right now, guys, I don't think she's dead. I do not think she's dead. She did not close her eyes. It looks like she was bleeding out all over the canvas. But let me tell you something right now, man. I don't think she's dead. We do see that Fisk kind of falls into that unhinged state. And this is that moment where everybody's saying now, gloves are off, right? There's no reason for him to play safe anymore, to play nice. I think for the most part, she may be in a coma, but I do think the same rules still apply as she has been hurt like this. Fisk is no longer going to play it coy. He's no longer going to play it patient. He's probably going to go hard. And whatever's going to happen in these next couple episodes is probably going to be what leads to the events of the next season. Of course, we know Luke Cage and Iron Fist are coming back. The boys are back in town. And I wonder if we're going to get Danny Rand finally dressing up as Daredevil. I'm just guessing. It would be so badass when we get there. But this was a pretty awesome episode. I liked it. It really kind of sets the stage for being that middle episode that says, hey, these next couple episodes, shit's going to hit the fan. And I'm perfectly fine to see what happens next. But that was my quick review of the episode, guys. I've been Unspoken Reviews, and I will see you guys in the next one. Later.